Well, newly elected LNP leader David Crisafulli has vowed to shake up the party, bringing a fresh approach for the next 4 years. Toowoomba South MP David Crisafulli has been elected to serve as his deputy with a new look front bench set to be selected in coming days. Joining me now for his first Sky News interview is Queensland opposition leader David Crisafulli. David Crisafulli, really appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me tonight. OK, how are you going to do things differently this time to be re-elected, or sorry, to be elected in 2024? How do you get the support of the Queensland people?
Good evening, Peter. Well, you summed up perfectly in your opening, and it's about an economic differentiation. And I know issues will come and go. They always do in a period of any government, particularly 4 years, and we'll prosecute those issues. But overwhelmingly, the election in 2024 will be about the economy, and we will provide a stark contrast. And long after coronavirus is gone from our memories, we will be asking the question, how can we get this state back to work? How can we create opportunities for people, particularly in regions that are wondering where is our future coming from? This is going to be the defining issue of my leadership, and I intend to make a superior economic case in 2024 and govern with grace and humility and decency and reform with a pace that people will look towards good generational Conservative government.
Now, the late mail is that you're going to split Treasury and Finance. That's how important you see, the economic narrative going forward as portfolios in your shadow cabinet. Is that right?
Yeah, we'll be releasing faces and more details in the next couple of days. But that's how serious I find it, Peter. I want to have all guns blazing on this, and people know my style. I'll only call things as I see it. But there is no way this government has an economic narrative. And walking around with a coloured glossy brochure of 40-odd pages saying you've got an economic plan that the Business Council absolutely condemned, the union said it was rubbish, walking around holding it to your chest for a photo shoot doesn't make it an economic plan. They didn't have one then and they won't have one in the future. We will. And having a Treasury shadow will allow a big picture economic vision to be told. The finance spokesman will unashamedly pull apart where they are falling short, and we will offer a credible alternative. Make no mistake, in 4 years' time, when people go to the ballot box, there will be no confusion. If people want economic choice, we would have given it to them in spades.
Now, there's been strong criticism of the campaign by the LNP. Personally, I don't think Maggie Thatcher could have beaten Palaszczuk on October 31 because this was a referendum on COVID. There's no doubt at all that Queenslanders, particularly elderly Queenslanders, rewarded Anastasia Palaszczuk for keeping them safe. However, there was speculation and there certainly was criticism of a campaign that failed to hit the mark. How do you compete, David Crisafulli, with the well-oiled, lean, clean fighting machine that is the Labor Party when it comes around to election time? Because they have no shame. They will play you guys off a break unless you actually take them on head on.
Well, Peter, they're well cashed up. They've changed the rules to suit themselves, and they campaign hard and they campaign well. How am I going to do it? By not waiting for the last few weeks for a campaign. My campaign's underway now. People are going to see me, they're going to see me out and about, and at times they'll agree with what I say, at times they won't, but they'll never look into my eyes and say, that guy doesn't believe in that. I am a values-driven politician, and I call things as I see it. And sometimes that means I say, yep, I agree with it, and that mightn't make news, but when I stand up and call something as being crook, you know it's crook. And people are going to learn that that will be the style of government right across the board that I'm going to lead into the future. And the next 4 years are going to shake things up to the point that there will only be one choice in 4 years, and we won't let Queenslanders down.
There's been accusations that the Palaszczuk government politicised COVID by keeping the borders closed. Now there are strong moves to have the borders reopen, and in fact in National Cabinet today we know that this government has agreed to bring down the borders by Christmas. But there are many people, and you're a Gold Coast MP, David, there are many tourism operators, including big theme parks, who are bleeding, hemorrhaging badly because they want Sydney-siders and Victorians to come to Queensland. What will you I mean, if you were Premier right now, would you open the borders?
Peter, what you mentioned, those people, what they want. I'll tell you what they want above all else. They'd actually like to know what's the logic behind some of the decisions, and they'd actually like to get a little bit of consistency. And that's been the real issue that's really bugged people. And you know, I was just looking before. There was somebody pouring her heart out, saying, "What a wonderful thing that the state of origin can be played in front of a full crowd." But I still can't walk my kid into school. I still can't go to my child's graduation. Yep. People want consistency. And I think they also want to be treated like adults and for the advice to be tabled. I think that's not too much to ask.
Have you had a briefing yet from Dr Jeanette Young, the Chief Health Officer in Queensland?
Not yet, Peter. I did request one on my first day. I'm not going to be critical of the Premier having not agreed to that yet. It's only been a day or so. That's completely understandable. I would expect one next week, though, because a lot of store is being put on that, and I would like to see the advice, to see how it looks, to see the format that it takes, to see all the things that it's factoring in, and that'll enable me to be an opposition that can effectively look at things and be able to pass judgment in a learned fashion, rather than just saying everything's wrong, rather than just having to blindly agree, to be able to look at things and make a genuinely decent call.
You mentioned on election night that while the LNP had been beaten, the fire still burned, particularly in your belly. You mentioned hunger a couple of times since you were elected as leader. They're words, David, and they are emotive words. Does the LNP have the mongrel to take it up to this mob?
Yeah, we do. And I looked around that party room the other day, and there wasn't a lot of yak-eyeing and yahooing and cheering and carrying on. There wasn't a lot of hubris. There was a lot of people who've got a bit of a haircut on their margins too. And we've lost some good people as well, Peter. And, you know, it's always when you go into a leadership position in any organisation, the first thing you say is, I'm humbled. Yeah, of course you're humbled. But I'm hurting a lot more than I'm humbled. And you mentioned hunger. Mate, I've got it in bucket loads. I don't want to be spending the rest of my life sitting in the opposition chambers. I got into politics because I want to try and shape the sort of Queensland that I want to see, where we are prepared to build a dam, where we are prepared to allow farmers to make a quid and not demonise the mining sector, where people in the city can know that they can get in the car and get home to their family without being stuck in traffic, where people look to Queensland as the place for that best tourism offering as it was once upon a time. Businesses moving to Queensland, a headquarter. Where else would you want to be? That's the sort of Queensland that I want to be part of. I don't want to be a politician because I just want to be a politician. I want to shape the sort of state that I know people will learn to look at and say, this is my Queensland. This is the Queensland that I want for my kids. And I'm hungry to see that occur.
Anastasia Palaszczuk, she's seen off Newman, Nichols and Frecklington. She's the most successful female politician in this country, having won 3 elections. She'll eclipse Peter Beattie if she goes the full term as the second longest leader in Queensland Labor history. What do you think of Anastasia Palaszczuk?
She's got my respect, and I won't go into the contest lightly. I saw her comments yesterday. I thought there was a little bit of smugness in it that I haven't seen too much of in the past. That's okay. I'm not interested in how she rates me. It's my job for Queenslanders to rate me. And I won't take her lightly. I won't take the might of the union movement lightly. And I'll never take the support of Queenslanders lightly. But what they will get from me is an opposition where they see this bloke's got a bit of fight about him. He leads a united team who burn to win. And above all, we will call things honestly and decently. And where there are errors, we will call them hard. Now, you mentioned in your intro their little ongoing words that they constantly use. Well, there was another set of words they used during the campaign, and they said, we will keep Queenslanders safe and strong. So they are going to be the 2 words that I want the government to live up to. Where they don't, I will call it out in that regard. Where they do, I'll be the first to say, I support that, maybe this is a way we could do it better, or no, that's wonderful, but where it's wrong, where it falls short, watch for us to call it and call it hard.
Just quickly before we go, David, I think there's an ongoing concern in this state about the ever-encroaching power within the union movement. You mentioned the union movement. Let's be frank here, the union movement run the factions within the Labor Party. It's said that when the CFMEU go onto a construction site, developers have to put an extra 30% onto the cost because of the thuggish behaviour that they exact on that site. Are you concerned that the union movement in Queensland has way too much power?
Nobody wins when that happens, and there's a place for a good union movement that protects workers' rights. I think most people acknowledge that. But there's no place for thuggery, there's no place for standover tactics, and there's also no place for unions being solely responsible for picking who sits around a table to make decisions. And that's the scenario where we have at the moment. And you know the wonderful thing, Peter, in the next couple of days, I get to name a shadow cabinet. I wish it was a cabinet, but it's not. It's a shadow cabinet. But here's the amazing thing. I can do it without anyone else telling me who to put there. I can do it based on talent. I can do it based on age, geography, all sorts of things. I don't have to factor in what some person who's unelected standing over my shoulder has to say. I was elected unopposed. That's the first time that's happened for the LNP. I had the great honour of being able to walk into the party room with the former leader. That shows you how much she burns to win. And isn't it amazing that I can put the best and brightest around that table and I don't owe anything to anyone else? That's a pretty good start on day one, I'm here to tell you.
Just quickly, will Tim Mander and Deb Frecklington form any part of your shadow cabinet?
Next couple of days will reveal all of that, Peter, but I'll make one comment. I thought one of the best things I saw when Deb made her decision to step aside was when she said, I'm still keen to serve in whatever capacity. That doesn't always happen. People often see former leaders go to the backbench and in many cases go to by-elections. Not only does she want to stay around, she wants to contribute. And the ability to have good quality people around in whatever capacity they're there, but to be able to use your best talent and to be able to use it free of factional interference, free of any other of those lurking little things over the shoulder, that puts us in a good position. We're smaller in numbers, Peter, but I'll tell you, we will work harder than you have ever seen, and by 2024, I hope Queenslanders come on board with the change they need.
David Crisafulli, great to see you tonight. Thanks for joining us on Sky News across Australia.
Thanks, Gleeson. Thank you.